Best thing we can do is just be ourselves. Carry on in our typical, usual, distracting,
Sordid love triangle ways.
leave it up to you to say the most inappropriate thing possible.
It was one of the most popular teen dramas of its time.
Are we having a moment here? I think we are.
In 1998, Dawson's Creek welcomed audiences to Cape Side for a coming-of-age saga unlike any other.
You're right, Dawson. It's perfect.
An emotional 6-season exploration of friendship,
It's always gonna be you and me.
sexuality,
It's just about sex. Is it that obvious?
and the heartbreaking geometry of endless love triangles.
Go. I'm telling you before I take it all back, all right? Go.
20 years later, EW is bringing the cast of Dawson's Creek back together for an unforgettable reunion.
It was enjoyable in a very particular way to be in the coffee shop this morning and just see people trying to process what was happening. Like, you know, one walks in, they're like, oh, that's interesting. Two, like, oh God, what a coincidence. Three, holy what is going on here?
You're everywhere.
Yeah, it's definitely weird.
Good weird. I was saying to everybody last night, definitely warm fuzzies are flowing.
The following program.
Modern style.
I remember I walked out of my house one morning and in West Hollywood, and I went jogging down the street down La Cienega, and I looked up and there was this big, huge billboard with James in a boat. And I just went, I had that moment of what world am I living in? You know, how did this little kid from North Carolina who dreamed of being Steven Spielberg, how did he go from a fisherman's son to Hollywood and create his life story and have it, you know, about to air on television?
The story of Dawson's Creek began back in the mid-90s with up-and-coming screenwriter Kevin Williamson.
Kevin Williamson is very well known today from things like I Know What You Did Last Summer and The Following and Vampire Diaries, but at the time he had just broken out with his new screenplay for Scream.
Do you have a boyfriend?
No.
You never told me your name.
Why do you want to know my name?
I want to know who I'm looking at.
What did you say?
When I sold Scream, it opened the door in so many ways for me to sort of go on all these meet and greets. Then I got a call from Paul Stupin, who was a TV producer. And he said, you know, I really like this script. Do you have any ideas for television? And at the time, I was so new and I was so green and I was still, you know, collecting unemployment checks. I had the check for Scream hadn't cleared yet, and I was still broke. And I just thought, I better have some ideas. I can't just not be ready. This is a moment and I have to be ready for it. So on the spot, I made up Dawson's Creek. I made up my child. I just made it up.
When Kevin Williamson first pitched Dawson's Creek, it was basically a semi-autobiographical tale about himself, growing up along a creek in North Carolina.
It's about a young man, Dawson Leary, who's an idealist, movie lover, and his group of friends, and they're dealing with growing up and going through puberty and falling in love and dealing with their parents, and it's a coming-of-age drama.
What you got here? Let's see. Creature from the Black Lagoon, humanoids from the deep swamp thing?
It's research. Making a movie.
Dawson's Creek is sort of my childhood. Now, of course, it's not the exact autobiographical, but I would say that it's me growing up on Dawson's Creek, the real Dawson's Creek. It was Dawson Creek. And it was a little inlet of water near my hometown in North Carolina. And all the kids in high school, we would always go there and jump off the bridge and swim. And it was just sort of a place where all of our high school memories were made. You know, in Dawson, I was that kid who was in love with Spielberg when I was growing up. And you know, I had an 8mm camera because I read that Spielberg had an 8mm camera. And then I started filming horror movies in my backyard. And I'd have all of my friends star in them.
No, cut! Hey, it's like a 3 count you gotta wait before you come up. Come on!
I would splice it together in my grandmother's bathroom, and you know, that was me.
And cut! Beautiful.
And so I took that character and created Dawson.
Perfect. That could not have gone any better.
Eventually, Williamson and producer Paul Stupin took the idea to an emerging network that had just launched in 1995.
I got a phone call from my agent who said, you know, there's this new network. Have you heard of the WB? And I went, no. And they're like, well, there's this show Buffy that is on the WB. I go, I've never, in Seventh Heaven, I think. And I had never heard of any of it. I didn't know And I said, okay, sure, if they want to meet me, I'll meet with anybody who wants to meet with me. And I went and met with them, and they just loved the script. They fell in love with it. They spoke of it in a way in which I saw it in my head, the way I felt about it in my heart.
The WB was this brand new network. It was just starting out, and it was determined to reach this teenage, college-aged audience. So obviously, it was a perfect fit, and they greenlit it very quickly.
Mrs. Bates.
Psycho. Who are you?
Dawson Leary.
The title role went to James Van Der Beek. At the time, the 21-year-old actor had only a few minor credits on his resume, including As the World Turns, Clarissa Explains It All, and the 1995 film Angus.
Just give me your shirt back.
Oh, you lose your shirt, man?
Like you didn't know.
Listen, Angus, I'd lend you my shirt, but I'm afraid it's not gonna fit. It might rip on you.
I was the nerd, and that's how I saw Dawson, the nerd. But they wanted someone TV. They weren't looking for me to star in a show. They were looking for a very handsome, charismatic actor to play Dawson. They wanted girls to watch. And then when we found James Van Der Beek, I mean, he had the look. He was, this Connecticut boy. He looked the part, he acted the part, he talked the part, and he was so intelligent, he was so smart. He didn't look like a nerd, but he was a nerd. He was a nerd inside.
You'll notice everything is arranged in receding box office order. Starting with the blockbusters, Jurassic Park, E.T., Jaws, Indiana Jones series, and if you follow it to my critically acclaimed wall, I have Schindler's List and The Color Purple.
When we first meet Dawson Leary, he is watching E.T., and that is the perfect encapsulation of this character. He is a super starry-eyed optimist who lives for Steven Spielberg.
This won the Oscar, didn't it?
Gandhi. Spielberg was robbed.
He's almost too idealistic. At times you kind of want to slap him, but he's the heart of the show, and he's sort of the moral center, at least in the beginning.
What is up with the sex? It's all anybody thinks about anymore. Sex, sex, sex. What is the big deal? Come on, if sex is so important, then how come Spielberg has never had a sex scene in one of his movies?
There was so much about Dawson that annoyed me. I love that he was sensitive. I love that he was very open and not trying to be a jock or So I love the vulnerability there. That was something that I was kind of happy to be putting out. But the rest of it, I found kind of annoying, to be honest with you.
Hey, Joey. I need a favor.
Uh-oh.
Dawson's best friend, Joey Potter, was played by Katie Holmes. The 19-year-old actress was coming off a small part in the Ang Lee film, The Ice Storm.
Oh, far out, Polly. Hey, look, these expired like 5 months ago. Think they're better aged?
Joey Potter was the tomboy. She was very precocious, Dawson's best friend growing up.
Everything's a potential script to you. Accept your perfect life, Dawson. It's reality.
Whereas Dawson was the all-American boy and had the picture-perfect life, Joey came from a more complicated family. Her mom had passed away, her dad is in jail, she lives with her older sister who isn't married but has a boyfriend.
If you want to wear my things, fine. They're fairly useless to me at this point, but that means you put them back where you found them. Got it?
Got it.
I'm way too pregnant to be digging underneath your bed.
So stay out of my room. Got it?
So the two families were very different.
The experience was very overwhelming because I was brand new. So it was my second job, and I didn't even know really where to look. So it was really fun to play with everybody and to be around such wonderful, talented people. And I think, especially when we first started, I was still a teenager, and it was nice to read a script that felt like expressed things that I was still trying to understand for myself.
What happened tonight, Joey?
I wigged out.
What is going on between us?
I have no idea. I learned so much, and it really formed a lot of how I viewed the business, and we really did grow up together and influenced each other, and I feel mostly just appreciative of everyone because we were little.
Same, yeah.
Where are you going?
Oh,
Spend the night.
can't.
Come on, you always spend the night.
Not tonight.
Why not?
I just don't think it's a good idea for me to sleep over anymore.
Joey and Dawson have been friends for years. She's been climbing in his bedroom window every Saturday night since they've been kids, and they watch movies and they have sleepovers. But now that they're getting to be in their teen years, things are starting to get a little weird.
Sleeping in the same bed was fine when we were kids, but we're 15 now.
Yeah?
We start high school Monday?
Yeah?
And I have breasts.
What?
And you have genitalia.
I've always had genitalia.
But there's more of it.
How do you know?
Long fingers. I gotta go.
You knew Dawson's Creek was a different kind of show right from the first scene.
Whoa, Joe, don't hit and run. Come on. Explain yourself.
Because you saw this banter between Dawson and Joey that was unlike anything we'd ever seen on television before.
I just think our emerging hormones are destined to alter our relationship, and I'm trying to limit the fallout.
Your emerging hormones aren't developing a thing for me, are they?
A thing?
There was this immediate, quick chemistry, this fast-paced dialogue that really showed that these people knew and loved each other so deeply.
Come on, don't get female on me, Joey. I don't want to start calling you Josephine.
Oh, Josephine, this.
The core of the show really is the relationship between Joey and Dawson. I mean, they're the emotional heart of the show. It's really about these two, it's about this friendship and what happens when kind of lines are crossed and feelings are opened up.
We're friends, okay?
And their connection with one another is the catalyst for the entire series.
No matter how much body hair we acquire, deal?
Deal.
You know what? When you go to New York and when you go and interview those actors, make them tell you the lyrics to that song.
Oh no,
All the
for my
lyrics.
lives to
Who
be
would
over.
know all the lyrics?
Right? I don't want to wait for our lives to be over.
I don't want to wait for our lives to be over.
Remember when I was growing up, I watched Little House on the Prairie. And every single time Michael Landon said something to Half Pint, I'd start crying. And then I watched James at 15. And James at 15 for me, it only lasted like a couple of years. It was James at 15 and James at 16. I don't think he ever made it to 17. But that show to me was a very emotional coming of age story. And that was sort of a lot of my inspiration for Dawson's Creek, believe it or not.
In the late 90s, the WB greenlit Dawson's Creek, a coming-of-age teen drama from creator Kevin Williamson.
Yeah, I really think it fits right in line with the whole tone of the piece, don't you think?
You're right, Dawson. It's perfect.
James Vanderbeek and Katie Holmes signed on to play best friends Dawson Leary and Joey Potter.
Listen, it is a fact that a large percentage of older women are attracted to young boys on the verge of manhood, okay? Keeps them feeling young. I read that in Cosmopolitan.
What are you doing reading Cosmopolitan?
Listen, I have 3 menstrually diverse sisters, okay? Cosmo is my savior.
The role of Dawson's other best friend, Pacey Witter, went to Joshua Jackson. The 20-year-old actor was most recognizable from his work in the Mighty Ducks franchise.
Charlie! What the hell is the matter with you?
Can't make me cheat.
I met Josh Jackson, who my only knowledge of him was Mighty Ducks. And so he walked into the room and he owned it. He was just such a star. He was such a good actor. I was like, how can this kid be this age and be so charismatic and so charming and then be a good actor on top of it?
Hey, Emilio Estevez, he was in those duck movies, remember? God, those were classics. So funny.
He's the jokester, the class clown, and of course, a lot of it came from the insecurities. He himself didn't have that perfect family. He wasn't close with his brother. He certainly wasn't close with his dad. And so you kind of never really see him having this home family life, and really that's why Dawson and Joey were his family.
Nah, you ain't hallucinating. Pacey's got the Jeep. Can I hear you say, yeah? Can I hear you say, oh, yeah?
That was the beginning of my believing that I was allowed to do this job that I'm still doing 20 years later. It just shifted my perspective on what, if I was allowed to be an actor, if I was allowed to dream inside of telling stories, and if I hadn't have done that at that very moment in my life, I don't know that I would have stuck it out, that I would have had the strength to get through those years and the awkwardness and the pimples and the gangliness. And if it hadn't have been for this very specific thing, I don't think I'm sitting, I'm obviously not sitting on this couch 20 years, but I don't think I'm getting the opportunity that I'm just about to go and do and play on Broadway. I don't think I would have had the strength to persevere through had it not been for it. So that I'm always thankful for.
Hi. was hoping we'd have a class together. Here we are.
Michelle Williams was cast as the new kid in town, Jen Lindley. Today, Williams is a 4-time Oscar nominee for Brokeback Mountain, Blue Valentine, My Week with Marilyn, and Manchester by the Sea.
My heart was broken. And I know yours is broken too.
But back then, the 18-year-old actress had only landed a handful of TV gigs, including Home Improvement, Step by Step, and Baywatch.
Listen, I'm having a party Friday night. You want to come? Yeah, sure. Great. Bring sand in your shoes. We'll make it a beach party.
When you first look at her at that age, she came across as an angel. And when she sat down in her audition, she was this broken bird, this broken... all I knew is there was something inside of her that was broken and desperately needed to be fixed. And that was the heart of Jen Lindley. She came from New York broken, and she needed to be fixed. And it took, and it took all her friendships in the creek, it took her grandmother, it took a lot of love, and ultimately that was her journey. And when she walked in the door, I said, wow, wow, wow.
Jen shows up in Cape Side in the most spectacular way possible. She gets out of a cab in this little flowered dress, and the sunlight's hitting her, and it's Michelle Williams, totally gorgeous.
Oh, well, my mouth drops.
She sort of saunters out of the cab and walks over, and the wind is blowing, and her blonde hair is blowing in the wind, and Dawson and Pacey are both immediately like, who is this?
It was really nice to meet you guys, and I'll see you in school.
If not sooner, yeah.
She claims she's there to help take care of her ailing grandfather. However, we soon learned that she was a little bit of a party girl in New York, and she was sent to live with her grandparents to clean up her act.
I was a baby. Yeah, I was just, I don't know, I was just growing up and having a job. What did I love? I love how attached people feel to it now. They're like kind of like overwhelming response that people still have to it, and how much they identify with it, and how much it was like a part of their life when they were growing up, because that stuff that sort of gets in there during those like really formative teen years, it kind of stays there. And so I find it really heartwarming and really sweet when people talk about what it meant to them.
Everything about you is awesome. I wanted you to know that.
Good to know.
You know who was also a contender for Jen Lindley?
Who?
Katie Heigl. Because
Wow.
Steve Miner, who directed the pilot, and had brought her in. And I think she had just looked slightly older, I think, at that time or something. Even though she was younger, I just think she was more mature. I don't know if she fit. I forget what, but she gave a great audition. I remember we were all sort of like, wow, she's good.
God, Mom! Oh, hi, son.
The role of Dawson's dad, Mitch Leary, went to 43-year-old John Wesley Shipp.
When we first meet Mitch Leary, he is this insanely hot dad who has this incredible romantic sexual chemistry with his wife.
Your mother and I were...
Just discussing whether or not...
Well, we needed a new coffee table. Hi, Pacey.
Hi, Mr. Leary. Mrs. Leary.
Hi, Pacey.
Dawson's newscaster mom, Gail, was played by 44-year-old Mary Margaret Humes.
Oh, don't look so red, Dawson. It could be worse.
And she and her husband Mitch are very much in love. Dawson walks in on them making out one day, and it's very awkward for everyone.
Mr. Manmeat, I'll see you later.
Mom. But Dawson starts to wonder whether or not Gail is possibly having an affair with her co-anchor.
Back to you, Bob.
Do you think my mom's sleeping with her co-anchor?
Where'd that come from?
That is an ongoing storyline that develops over the season.
Your breakfast is ready.
I'm glad I'm here, Grams.
Rounding out the cast was Mary Beth Peel as Jen's grandmother, known affectionately as Grams. The 58-year-old actress was a former opera singer turned Broadway star with a Tony nomination for her performance in The King and I.
She is very religious and very sort of straight-laced, and she doesn't like Joey or Dawson.
That girl from down the creek has been crawling in the bedroom window of that boy from next door for the past 10 years. I believe they're what you call the wrong element.
She doesn't think they're the right kind of people, and she very much wants Jen to come to church with her.
Look, I know what happened in New York. Church will do you good.
Which is something that Jen chafes at because she doesn't believe in God.
I'll tell you what, Grams. I'll go to church when you say the word penis.
You stop that talk.
she was pretty heavy-handed at the beginning. What I loved is that Kevin and the subsequent writers gave her these little gems of giving permission to everyone to be part of this human mix.
If Jack is gay, he does not need your judgment, young man. The Lord above will be the one to judge him, as he will all of us. What he needs from you, from me, from everyone else in this world is love and tolerance.
And it was wonderful for me as a person, and people still say, oh, I remember when you said this, or I remember when you said that, because it struck something, just a single line.
This is the WB Television Network.
On January 20th, 1998, Dawson's Creek premiered on the WB to the opening bars of pop star Paula Cole's hit single, I Don't Want to Wait.
The theme song just blew up. It was playing on the radio. Fans just loved the Paula Cole song. And to this day, when you hear it in the coffee shop or on a radio station, the first thing you think of is Dawson's Creek.
Here's a fun fact. I don't know the words. I've never known the words. All I know is do, 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 do. You know what, when you go to New York and when you go and interview those actors, make them tell you the lyrics to that song. Do it and get them on film and see if they know the lyrics. I'm telling you. All I know is I don't want to wait for our lives to be over, da 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 da. You know, I don't know the verses at all.
All the lyrics. Who would know all the lyrics?
Right? I don't want to wait for my lives, for our lives to be over.
I think it's just that over and
For
over.
our lives to be over, I want to know right now, what will it be?
Yes, yes.
I don't want to wait
I don't know it.
for our lives to be over, I want to know right now. Wait, will it be yes or will it be sorry? That's it. Will it be almost? Will it be?
I think Kevin meant the verses.
It's well, weirdly, it's like about World War II.
Yeah.
I swear to God, it is.
That song
it's like,
is about
she
World War
came
II?
home-
It's
he
about a
came
mother
home from
waiting.
War and there was
Yeah.
a baby waiting for him. That's like essentially the
Yeah.
lyrics. You can look it
Yeah.
up. You guys look it up.
There's something about when the phone would ring and
Yes.
the heartbeat, like,
No,
yeah.
it's
'cause
like
she
about
thought
a
it was
soldier returning from war.
with
so
two
like
babies.
really just the chorus.
She has
Yes.
two babies at home and she's
Yes.
waiting. She's waiting to hear if her husband's gonna make it home from war.
Although,
when you
hear it on the radio, do you guys all get warm fuzzies? Because I do. I love that you get warm fuzzies so much, Meredith. I do. When I hear it, I actually go,
It was pandemonium. Like 5 times as many people that thought were gonna show up showed up. We ran out of headshots. Girls were getting pressed against barricades. They had to take me out and put me in a police car to get me out of there. Yes. No, I remember that we halfway through the shoot, we realized we needed an opening credits montage. And went, oh, well, we should shoot something. And the DP had a broken Bolex camera with real film on his camera truck. And I said, can I take this? And in between the scenes, I filmed all the kids just walking around the beach, walking around. And I got them in my rental car and I drove them around Wilmington, North Carolina, and we just filmed them moving around, and we created the opening sequence.
In January 1998, Dawson's Creek premiered on the WB and quickly became the highest rated show on the network.
This is a big deal.
The WB had already started getting some real momentum with Buffy the Vampire Slayer on Tuesday nights, and so they paired Dawson's Creek with Buffy.
Dawson's Creek, after Buffy on the WB's new Tuesday.
And it was a great combination. Talk about a perfect flow from, a teen queen fighting monsters to a teen group of friends, fighting their hormones. And so it was really a great flow. And by the end of the season, Dawson's Creek was the network's #1 show.
Back in a bit.
Right from its premiere, fans were obsessed. Finally, there was this teen soap where you felt like, oh, these are people like my friends. Oh, they're into sex. They're sort of not knowing what they're gonna be like in high school.
So, Jen, you a virgin?
That's mature.
Well, because Dawson is a virgin, and 2 virgins really makes for a clumsy first encounter, don't you think?
You were gonna die.
It was a smash, in large part because it had this beautiful cast, and they were speaking frankly about sex.
Yes, I am a virgin, and how about you, Joey? Are you a virgin?
Please. Years ago, trucker named Bubba.
Which was not something we really had ever seen before on television in a teen show.
Okay. I'll sit over here. How you doing?
You take one more step in this direction, and I can almost guarantee you a permanent disability.
Tell you what, why don't I just start the car?
He never insulted the audience and never insulted us by dumbing us down in order to be, believable teenagers. I loved that part. I loved the
In
length.
fact, he probably got the viewers hitting the dictionaries in every episode.
After years of gratuitous self-examination, you finally did it. You acted. I mean, I thought you and Joey were going to draw out this whole will they, won't they drama for at least another couple of years, because, Sam and Diane, they didn't get together for at least 4 seasons. And Mulder and Scully, they haven't even kissed.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he pushed, but kids are smart. Like, kids are really, really smart. And I think Kevin put that into his scripts, and I think we got to put that onto the screen, and we never talked down to the people that were watching it. Oh, I'll get off my soapbox now, but I'm passionate about it.
It was never difficult when the dialogue was the truth. And when it was so eloquently put out, it was kind of a dream to play. Yeah.
It's not you, okay? It's my own stupid hang-ups. My parents have this raging sex life, and I guess I secretly used it as their measure of happiness.
Well, sex doesn't equal happiness.
Yeah, I know that now.
Fans of Dawson's Creek loved the characters, they loved the writing, but they also really tuned in for James and Josh.
Are we having a moment here? I think we are.
It just became sort of iconic teen figures, and I think there was also something very accessible about them. Like, I think, they seemed friendly, and those characters were really kind, and they hit like Beatles level, kind of fame.
Suddenly, from the first to second season, we'd have to have security there to keep the fans away while we're shooting. We couldn't go to the mall anymore, because I'd be like, fending 30 girls off of James. He'd have to walk around with sunglasses and a hat on his head. It was just interesting how it all just changed for those guys.
We came back for season 2, and then it was like...
like a week, I went from signing my first autograph ever at Universal City Walk in LA, and I was like, oh wow, I just signed an autograph, to then a week later, I was doing some appearance for the WB at the time, and it was pandemonium. Like 5 times as many people that thought were gonna show up showed up. We ran out of headshots. Girls were getting pressed against barricades. They had to take me out and put me in a police car to get me out of there.
Yes.
I was like traumatized for it. There was no volume control, and it really made me pull away actually quite a bit. If I could go back now, I would just put a hand on my shoulder and be like, relax, enjoy it. Yeah,
You're gonna make it.
you're gonna be okay. But it got scary. You couldn't go to a mall. I finally had money for the first time, and I couldn't go to a mall.
That's hysterical. I remember I got followed around a mall, and it started out as a couple of people, and then I kept feeling like, and then I was like, oh, maybe it's nothing, and then it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and soon there were like 30 people following me around a mall, and I literally had never had a panic attack before, and all of a sudden I was like, holy shit, get me out of here. What's going on? What are they gonna do to me? Like, it really was, it's overwhelming, it's strange. And then it was all, how are Josh and James? What do they look like? What do they smell like? What is their hair? And I'm like, what? Yeah, they all wanted to be up in your businesses.
Whenever I hear, to this day, whenever I hear like a gaggle of teenage girls cackling and giggling, I have the lamest form of PTSD ever.
You gave them like a cultural reference, and it's like my favorite thing that when people say that. So I'm happy for us and our friendship.
One of the things about all these characters, every single character has a trait of me in them. They represent who I am. And I had just, like in my 20s, gone through the coming out process and had told my parents I was gay, and I had taken that whole journey, and I wanted a character on the show to represent that journey and to represent that side of me.
Hi, I'm Jack.
Can I help you?
Andy's brother.
Who's Andy?
My sister.
At the start of season 2, creator Kevin Williamson introduced a few fresh faces to Capeside.
I'm Andy McPhee. You're Joey, right?
Pacey's soon-to-be new love interest, Andy McPhee, was played by 29-year-old Meredith Monroe.
Oh my God.
When we first meet Andy, she is this adorable, sort of like type A teen who actually has a pretty funny interaction with Pacey.
Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Officer, please, I am so sorry. I just got my license. Please be kind.
We'll have to see that license and your registration too, little miss.
And he kind of tricks her into thinking he's his brother, who's a cop. And you can see right away that the two have this sort of banter where they're gonna fight, and ultimately maybe something more will come of it.
Maybe I can just let this one incident slide, but I want you to know I got my eyes on you now, Blondie.
I loved everybody, and I think it goes back to what we were saying. It was such like growing up together, and it was like a family. I felt like I was so grateful that it was shooting in Wilmington. We all got to really connect on a way that I don't think we would have had we been New York or LA. And I felt like it was a family. Like I truly loved everybody.
Dawson, Joey, hey. Dawson, you know my brother Jack, right?
Yeah, we met. Kind of unofficially.
And of course you know Joey.
Yeah, of course.
The role of Andy's older brother Jack went to 26-year-old Kerr Smith.
When we first meet Jack, he's a bit introverted and shy, and eventually he and Joey strike up a relationship over their shared love of art.
I love it when a painting can really affect you emotionally. I mean, I find this one really intense. What? What are you looking at?
Nothing. I just had no idea that you were such an art connoisseur.
I don't know if you know this, but in the beginning, I was actually hired to create a love triangle between these two. So I was playing Joey's boyfriend in the beginning.
But Jack starts to realize that he's gay.
Today was a day the world got smaller.
And there's a really moving, heartbreaking scene in the second season where he is reading a poem in front of class.
I see him. The image of perfection. His frame strong, his lips smooth.
And he is really sort of visibly upset as he is expressing feelings for another man.
And I wish I could escape the pain, but these thoughts, they invade my head. God, please set me free.
And he runs out of class, and the entire classroom is kind of just standing there in shock.
I was thinking, wow, this is gonna be really hard to play. How am I gonna do this? Yeah, it was some emotional stuff.
You are not gay.
Yes, I am! And as hard as you've tried to stamp it out and to ignore it, I have tried harder to be quiet and to forget it and to not bother my family with my problem.
I remember a lot of scenes with the dad and with Andy and just breaking down there on the stairwell in the hallway.
Stop crying, both of you.
Leave.
Andy, this is between Jack and me.
Not anymore, it's not.
You know, the father not accepting who Jack was, and the sister, you know, Andy obviously was giving me all the support. It was a tough episode.
This was an incredibly groundbreaking moment on television to see a gay teen out of the closet and owning their life.
When I created the show, I knew that's what I wanted, but I was scared to tell people. I was still in the closet a bit. Even though I was as an out man, I was scared to say, this is the character I want to write. This is how I want to express myself. And so I created the character and didn't tell anyone he was going to come out of the closet.
I remember about 3-4 months into it, Kevin calls me up and he goes, let's go get some coffee.
I just had to go tell our actor, Kerr Smith. And I flew down to Wilmington and I said, Kerr, can we talk?
I could feel it coming. I don't know why, I just could. Because I knew that everybody, all the characters were a segment of Kevin's personality, but nobody was representing his sexuality at that point. So he takes me to coffee and he goes, listen, we want to go down a different avenue with Jack.
I explained all the reasons why I wanted to do this. And he thought about it and he was nervous.
I go, oh God. All right, let me call everybody I know and I'll get back to you at the end of the day because I got to make a decision here.
His reaction though ultimately was, I'm an actor, and if you are promising me that I'm going to get to act, let's do it.
obviously you know the decision. I'm glad I made it.
And I just want you to know that I'm here for you. And that I love you. And you're not alone.
Jack's sexuality in his coming out episode is one of the episodes everyone, I think, talks about when they talk about Dawson's Creek. There had never really been a teen coming out on TV the way that this happened. This changed people's lives. Like, I saw myself in Jack. So many young people saw themselves in Jack. And I think that's what, you know, is so important about this show, is that it affected culture.
Remember back then, a lot of the fan mail that I was getting were from kids that were teenagers in the closet, and they were kind of going through the exact same experiences, what we were telling on the air. And I remember reading this one, you know, this kid said, I watched the episode of where Jack came out, I walked into my parents' room, and I basically came out of the closet to them. And I'm sitting here thinking, wow, the power of what's going on here is pretty crucial, and, you know, we need to be very responsible about this. I had mixed feelings. Like, I felt it was awesome that he did that, but I had no idea how his parents are gonna react, you know? So it could be a bad thing. It was scary.
I was just gonna say that the thing that people always come up to me and say is like, that changed my life.
Aww.
Like, they say, and the best story that I ever heard was somebody came up to me and like, he was like, when I was growing up, I had this like best friend, and everybody always said like, oh, you're like Dawson and Joey. And the way that he came out, he was like, actually guys, it's Jack and Jen. And they were like, oh, okay, we understand what that means. Like you gave them like a cultural reference, and it's like my favorite thing that when people say that. So I'm happy for us and our friendship.
Thanks.
Okay, sorry to interrupt.
Show Williams.
I feel like everybody on this show cried more than I did, and I was the one who got caught in the loop.
You're the best meme ever.
It's not how many times you cried.
It's how you cried.
It's how you cried.
I was getting a lot of pressure, you know, at the time, you know, you had a film career or a TV career, you didn't have both. And here I was trying to have both. And now you're crazy if you don't have both. But at the time, it was very unusual. And so my film career, I had this big deal with, you know, the Weinstein brothers, who, you know, proceeded to lock me down for 16 years and hold me captive. No. And so I had to sort of honor that deal. And so it became very difficult, and I felt like I wasn't giving 100% to Dawson's.
After season 2, Kevin Williamson decided to leave Dawson's Creek in favor of his film career.
Things aren't the same anymore, Joe.
While life in Cape Side continued, some relationships were realigning.
What are you doing here?
It's the damnedest thing. I just got into Dawson's rowboat, and it magically drifted towards your dock.
The Joey Dawson-Pacey love triangle essentially kicks off in season 3. And at the very end of that first episode, there's this great moment where Joey is crying and Pacey, of all guys, is there for her.
Well, people to see me like this, it had to be you.
You know, it's a new year. Who knows? You and I might even become friends.
And that was the first time you kind of see a glimmer of chemistry between those two characters.
I'm upset enough as it is.
Come here, water.
And it really set the stage for the entire rest of the season and then the entire rest of the series.
I'm starting to forget why.
Why what?
Why we're not together.
I mean, this isn't exactly the easiest thing I've ever had to do, Pacey. Telling Dawson that while he wasn't looking, I developed this bizarre gravitational pull towards his best friend, and I can't stop thinking about him or wanting to be near him or wanting to kiss him all the time.
And that became the central crux around which everything in Dawson's was built. Who was Joey going to choose? Was it going to be Dawson? Was it going to be Pacey? She went back and forth, back and forth.
You can't have him as your boyfriend and me as your consolation prize. You're gonna have to make a choice. And I tell you right now, if you choose him, I'm not gonna be able to pick up the pieces when it all falls apart.
And it was something that kept fans coming back episode after episode.
I think I'm in love with you.
But at the end of season 3, Joey goes off into the sunset with Pacey.
You have to go. You have to see for yourself, all right? I can stand here and tell you that it's a colossal mistake and that all roads lead back to me, but that's not going to make any bit of difference. Words and speeches sound great, but they don't add up to anything.
Dawson and Joey finally have a talk where Dawson gives her the go-ahead to, to go find Pacey.
All that matters right now is what you want.
I don't even know what I want, Dawson.
Yes, you do. You want him. You want him like I want you. You love him like I love you.
He basically says, you love him like I love you, and you need to go find him.
But Dawson, I want us to still be friends, and I want to know that you don't hate me.
Your words, Joey. Because after you're done dispensing your pleasantries here, you're going to turn around and you're going to walk away from me. Aren't you?
By the way, our friendship is basically going to be over if you do it, but you should go do it.
I have to, otherwise I'll never know.
Just go.
Dawson.
Joey, go. I'm telling you before I take it all back, all right? Just go.
And as she runs away, Dawson starts crying, and it is an ugly cry.
We get that moment where Dawson starts crying. And you know you've seen it, even if you've never seen this show.
That crying moment has become a true internet classic. It is a meme, and I thank James Van Der Beek for that moment.
I feel like everybody on this show cried more than I did, and I was the one who got caught in the loop.
You're the best meme ever. An
I
amazing meme.
feel like you cried 10 times as many times as I did on that show.
But no one cried quite
But
like
you're right.
you.
It's
somehow
It's not how many times you
It's
cried.
how you cried.
It's how you cried. I perhaps cried the ugliest. Maybe that was the.
Yes.
Maybe
He who cries ugliest cries last.
Michelle says she's never seen it.
I'm
We're
pulling it
about to
up.
reveal-
There we go.
Oh no.
Have you never seen it?
I cried. What does it say? Because I don't get it.
I love it.
Isn't that
It's
amazing
probably my
what we've
favorite.
before?
It's probably my favorite thing about the whole show.
Don't need to know any of this.
By the way, no, seriously, I was on Twitter and somebody was like, "Oh, classic at Vander James," and I was like, "Oh, what is this?" So I took it, and it was a 3-second loop of me crying, and I thought it was hilarious. And it just has taken on this weird, it's hilarious to me that you can work for 6 years on a show and
And get it boiled down into 3 seconds.
And you know, 120 something hours, and it gets boiled down to 3 seconds.
the
It will last.
humanity.
It'll outlive me. You know what I mean?
I was a Dawson Joey diehard. It was going to be Dawson and Joey always. Until I started writing it. You know, it was always a coming of age story. That was the whole emphasis of the show. And I sort of felt like we were always trying to be different. We were always trying to, we were trying to subvert the Peach Pit. That was every step of the way. That was our goal. How do we subvert the Peach Pit? If they did it on 90210, how can we do it? And how can we make it ours and make it special in a way that they did? That was a very specific show. We wanted to be that.
Dawson's Creek premiered in 1998 and remained one of the top 5 highest rated shows on the WB for 4 straight seasons.
Let me someone.
Yeah, right. Like I'm gonna meet the love of my life at a college frat party.
Season 5 was a bit of a restart. Everyone had graduated high school, and now they're off to college, except for Pacey, who gets a job working at a restaurant in Boston.
42 pounds of peeled and sliced potatoes.
So everyone is living in a new environment, and of course we get some new characters to kick off the season.
I'm afraid for you, Joey.
What are you talking about?
I'm afraid that you're not having the proper college experience.
Joey's new college roommate, Audrey, was played by Busy Phillips. The 22-year-old actress was best known for her role in the cult classic Freaks and Geeks.
All right. 18. That makes me jailbait.
Audrey is a partier. She is rich. She's from LA. She didn't really, work her way to get into Worthington in the way Joey did, and the two are just not on the same page.
Yeah, no offense, Audrey, but you really don't know that much about my life.
And whose fault is that, I wonder?
But what's funny and what was really heartwarming is that they ultimately became best friends.
What do you say? We skip the jog and go straight for the ice cap frappy thing.
I'll change my clothes.
For me, it was interesting, obviously, coming into a show that had been so wildly popular and successful and such a part of the zeitgeist, and had really redefined, you know, what teen shows were. And I loved being able to bring a different energy to the show.
We're gonna celebrate. We're gonna cut loose. Tonight, we're gonna kiss some boys.
Which was the point, I guess, since they go to college, and that's what happens when you go to college. You get a different energy.
While ratings slipped over the next 2 years, the show remained in the top 10 for the WB. But after 6 seasons and 128 episodes, Dawson's Creek finally came to an end on May 14th, 2003.
Were you sleeping? Because I can leave.
No, I'm glad you're here. We didn't really get much alone time tonight. There's so much I want to know about you and New York and everything.
Creator Kevin Williamson returned to Capeside after a 4-year absence to write the emotional 2-part series finale.
I was a Dawson Joey diehard. I mean, it was always going to be Dawson and Joey. Never, ever. I don't care how romantic things got between Joey and Pacey. It was going to be Dawson and Joey, always. Until I started writing it.
Anything going on in LA?
I'm absolutely 100% intensely committed to my show. And nothing else.
The series finale kicks off 5 years ahead in 2008. Dawson is a successful producer in California, and the entire clan of friends is descending back on Capeside for Gail Leary's wedding.
Hey, let's switch. Dawson won't let me lead.
Okay.
Hey.
At the wedding, Gail's wedding, everyone's having a great time. They're dancing on the dance floor, and all of a sudden, Jen, out of nowhere, collapses on the ground.
Jen, we were dancing, she just collapsed. Jen?
Somebody get her bag. She needs her pills.
It turns out Jen has an abnormality in her heart, and it seems like things are going to be fine, but things quickly take a turn for the worse.
I've been trying to get okay with this, but I can't do it alone anymore. Because I am gonna die, Jack.
We've dealt with so much. What's the one thing yet to deal with? And that's the death of one of their own. You know, one of their contemporaries, one of their circle. And that is the ultimate, I mean, if you don't come of age during that, then, I mean, if nothing thrust you into adulthood, that would do it. And so I chose Jen because I thought it was very tragic. It was very sad.
The only decision left is the one that I need to make with myself. I mean, I know who I'm supposed to be with. I've always known.
Really?
Yeah, but then the fear takes over. The free-floating, anxiety-ridden fear in the pit of my stomach that makes me run. Jen, I am completely comfortable running. I really don't know any other way.
When I thought of all the different characters who could die, I thought, well, if we kill Jen, that's going to force our other 3 into action.
Maybe I can help. What if I demand that you make that decision? No more running. I'm going to make it my dying wish.
So I chose Jen as a way for Joey, Dawson, and Pacey to finally pull their lives together and to thrust them into adulthood once and for all. I also envisioned, when I first thought about it, I envisioned that very first scene of where Grams goes over to Jen when she realized, I wanted the moment that she died to be with Grams and that she would walk over and, you know, kneel. These are like my real family members. I get choked up thinking about it. But Mary Beth Peel was so beautiful. She leaned over and kissed her forehead.
I'll see you soon, child.
And she said, I'll see you soon, child. And I envisioned that scene, so it had to be Jen. That scene just came to life in my head, and I had to see that play out. And they were so wonderful.
As a Dawson's Creek fan, you know, I think I went through a lot of the stages of grief when Jen passed away. Finally got to acceptance. I do think that her death obviously served a purpose because it forced Joey to make a choice between Dawson and Pacey. That was her dying wish.
It's been a long day.
Yeah.
After Jen's death, Joey and Dawson sit in their old spot by the creek and have a chat.
For the first time in a long time, my life is real. It doesn't matter who ends up with
with who. In some unearthly way, it's always going to be you and me.
Jen's death really does put things in perspective for a lot of the characters, Dawson particularly.
What we have goes beyond friendship, beyond lovers. It's forever.
Joey and Dawson have this beautiful heart-to-heart down by the water, and they call each other their soulmates.
I love you too, Joey.
And you're left wondering, so has she chosen Dawson? You don't quite know.
A few moments later, we cut to the end of Dawson's TV show.
I want to know right now, what will it be?
Where the Dawson character and the Joey character ultimately wind up together.
You and me. Always.
Then the camera cuts back to Joey watching Dawson's show, feeling proud.
It was perfect. Absolutely perfect.
And the camera pulls back, and who should she be curled up on the couch with?
Are those tears?
But Pacey.
Are you crying?
You got me.
Let's go home.
I don't know. It felt right to me. It seemed like it made more sense. Katie's in
She's
the
not
hot
allowed.
seat.
She's not allowed to have an opinion on this one.
No, I mean that's a hard one, and I think that it was what?
Excuse me.
I'm glad that Kevin had to make the decision, and
I'll
we
give you
didn't.
an out, just say Jack.
Exactly.
Josh, did you think that was the right ending?
Yeah, of course I did. My vanity knows no bounds.
Got Joey crying like a baby.
I can't wait till next season.
You'll never guess who I'm meeting tomorrow.
Spielberg?
Out of town.
It was very sad. Like it was just, where are we all gonna go? We've known this. It's very strange.
We also knew that it was coming, right? So the show was hard work, like really, really hard work.
Yeah, we were all drained.
And we were all ready. Well, no, I was ready to be done and moved on to something in my life. So we knew going into that last season that it was going to be the end. So for me, it was much more cathartic than anything else. Like that feeling of like, holy shit, we did this and it's done now. And whatever happens next, that's tomorrow's problem.
It's been 20 years since the premiere, but Dawson's Creek remains one of the most beloved teen dramas of all time.
Dawson's Creek is a show that ages very well. It's something that people can discover now and are discovering now on streaming platforms. And the reason that it's, it continues to be so beloved is it's amazing storytelling. It's a true teen soap. And it's a show that really has sort of relatable, universal themes about love triangles, about idealism, about, dealing with your parents, about growing up. So it's the kind of thing that everyone can relate to, and it will probably continue to be a classic for years to come.
I'd love for people to look back on Dawson's Creek and go, boy, did I love watching that show. Boy, did that show entertain me during some really troubling years as a teenager. Boy, do wish I could watch that show again. I just want them to look back on it fondly, because that's what I do. I look back on Dawson's Creek and I just get a big smile on my face.
Had a lot of fun doing it. We all gave it our all, which is why it was so exhausting and to go through. I don't think any of us even knew how to phone it in, even if we decided we wanted to.
You know what I love about this show is that it existed at a time pre-social media, pre-internet, and it was nostalgic when we were shooting it. So I feel like I really like it where it is, to be honest. And I like that we ended it when we were all 5 years older. It does feel like it's completed, and I feel like, I like it the way it is.
I'm happy that here we are 20 years later and that someone cares enough to talk to me about it. That's just beautiful. for me.
The Dawson's Creek reunion cover, featuring James Vanderbeek, Katie Holmes, Michelle Williams, and Joshua Jackson, is available anywhere magazines are sold. The 4 special collector's covers are available exclusively at Barnes & Noble and backissues.ew.com.